Prepare yourself for this last pose. No need to get up all the way. Just roll yourself on your left side. Come into a cat pulling its tail. So make sure here you have the hips directly over each other. You bring the up leg, the right leg in front, and the back leg behind you. You scissor your legs. Bend, you lower your left knee, and with the upper, with the right hand, reach behind you. Come into a twist, let the right shoulder go all the way behind you to the floor, and see if you can reach the lower foot. Maybe here, can acupressure, kidney number 1, even once more. So we are in a full twist now, hips on top of each other. Right shoulder softening to the ground, reaching behind from the right hand to the left foot. And lastly, once more, scissor your legs and find the maximum distance in between your legs. And then again, release, soften into the twist. The twists, which are set to bring in equilibrium between our forward folds and our back bends. The twists were also inviting us to change perspective, to get a good view around, to see every side and all options. We will stay here for another 4 minutes. As I will tell you a Taoist tale on inner forgiveness. Inner forgiveness is a virtue that has long been the focus of many spiritual systems, since it is a necessity to be peaceful in our inner world. Master Koksui said, your spiritual development depends on your ability to forgive others. So there are many stories and parables that explain the beneficial effects of forgiveness, encouraging us to forgive, forget, to continue living and loving. The following story of the sack of the potatoes is the Taoist approach, how to do so. So, the story goes, one day a sage gave his disciple an empty sack and a basket of potatoes, and he asked the disciple to write the name of people with whom he still feels angry. He said, think of all the people who have done or said something against you in the recent past, especially those you cannot forgive. Take one potato as a representation of each one, put them in the sack. So the disciple came up with a few names, and soon after his sack was heavy with potatoes. Carry the sack with you wherever you go for 7 days, said the sage, and then we shall meet again. So at first the disciples thought nothing of it. Carrying the sack was not particularly difficult. After some time, however, it became more of a burden. It sometimes even got in his way, and it seemed to require quite more effort to carry as time went on, even though the weight remained the same. After a few days, the sack began to smell. The potatoes gave up a ripe odor. Not only were they increasingly inconvenient to carry around, they were also becoming rather unpleasant. Finally, the week was over and the disciple went to the sage. Any thought on all this? The sage asked. Yes, Master, the disciple said. When we are unable to forgive others, we carry negative feelings with us everywhere, much like these potatoes. And that negativity becomes a burden to us, and after a while, it festers. Continue the story on your other side. So gently release the pose, release your arms and legs, roll over on your back. Stay there for a moment, allow your spine to realign. Roll over to your right side. Bring the top leg in front of you, the lower leg behind you. And with the upper hand, reach behind you to find your foot. Allow yourself to go in the twist. Hips remain on top of each other. Shoulders are softening to the ground. Remember to turn also your head over your left shoulder for the whole spine to get the twist. And when you're comfortable, lastly, once more, extend the distance between both legs. Soften once more into the pose as our story continues. So the negativity becomes a burden after a week in the sack. It festers. Yes, said the sage, that is exactly what happens when one holds a grudge. So how can we lighten the load? And the disciple says we must strive to forgive. So said, yes, forgiving someone is the equivalent of removing the corresponding potato from the sack. How many of your transgressors are you able to forgive? And the disciple answered, I've thought about it quite a bit, Master. It required much effort, but I have decided to forgive all of them. Very well, we can remove all the potatoes then. Were there any more people who transgressed against you this last week? And the disciple thought for a while and realized there were. Life happens. And then he panicked when he knew that his empty sack was about to get filled up again. Master, he asked, if we continue like this, there will be always potatoes in the sack, week after week. Yes, the sage said, as long there are people speak or act against you in some way, there will be always potatoes. But Master, we can never control what others do, so what good is the Tao in this case? The Master answered, we are not in the realm of the Tao yet. Everything we have talked about so far is the conventional approach to forgiveness. It's the same thing that many philosophies and most religions preach. We must constantly strive to forgive. It is an important virtue. This is not the Tao, because we are not striving in the Tao. Then what is the Tao, Master? You can figure it out. If the potatoes are the unpleasant feelings, then what is the sack? The sack in this case is a case that allows me to hold on to the negativity. It is something within us that makes us dwell on feeling offended. It might be my inflated sense of self-importance. And what will happen if you let go of it? Then the things that people say or do against me no longer seems to be such a major issue. In that case, you won't have any potatoes with new names. That means no more weight to carry around, no more bad smells. The Tao of forgiveness is the conscious decision, not just to remove some potatoes, but to relinquish the entire sack. We want to practice higher levels of forgiveness, where there remains nothing to forgive. Release the pose gently.